Hello dear students, welcome to another episode of our English lessons series for the secondary stage. In this lesson I'm going to address grade 11 students, and our lesson will be taken from unit 10, and it will include description of some grammatical points which will be about the use of should and should have, in addition to talking about the use of suffixes and how they infect the words they are added to, and we'll end up our lesson with talking about some phrasal verbs. So please get yourself ready and prepare a notebook and a pen so that you can take notes of our lesson. Until you get ready, I'll meet you immediately after this short break. Welcome back, dear students. I hope you are ready now to join me with this lesson. As I said earlier, we are going to talk about Unit 10 Grammar. And in this lesson, we are going to talk about first the use of should and shouldn't have. Then we are going to talk about the use of suffixes. And we'll end up our lesson with some phrasal verbs. Okay? So please let's start. Now, before we explain the use of should and should have, let's have a look at these examples. And from these examples, we can deduce the meaning and the use of should and should have. Our two sentences say, you should drive more carefully. The second one says, you should have driven more carefully. Now, we have a few questions about these two sentences. Number one, what part of the verb drive follows should in the first sentence? If you look at the first sentence, please pay attention to the verb drive and try to identify its part of speech. So what do you think? The word drive after should in the first sentence is in, yes, the base form, or what we call the infinitive form of the verb drive. So after should, we have the verb in its base or infinitive form. Next question, what part of the verb drive follows should have in the second sentence? Now look at the second sentence and try to identify the part of speech of drive after should have. In this case, our part of speech is past participle. So in the first sentence we have infinitive form, and second sentence past participle. So please remember these few things. Next example, or next question, what is the main difference in meaning between the two sentences? If you look at sentence 1 and 2, can you identify the difference between the two? What do they mean when you say you should drive and when you say you should have driven? What's the difference between the two sentences? Yes, a good guess. That's fine. So the first one is about the present or future, whereas the second is about the past. When you say you should drive, you are talking about a present or future situation. Whereas when you say you should have driven, you talk about the past experience. That's excellent. So far, I hope it's clear to you. Let me just summarize these things. After should, we have the base form of the verb. After should have, we have the past participle. All right? Next. Again, look at these sentences and try to answer the questions below. Here we have three sentences. The first one reads, you should buy a car with 2 airbags. And the second one says, you should have bought a car with 2 airbags. Number 3 says, you shouldn't have bought a car without airbags. All right? Now this is the structure of should and should have. And we are going to study, number 1, which sentence refers to the present or future? Is it number 1, 2, or 3? Which sentence talks about a present or future situation? What do you think? Remember, we saw it in just a few minutes ago. that when we use the infinitive form after should, it's about a present or future situation. So which sentence has the infinitive or the base form of the verb after should? It is excellent, number 1. You should buy. So it is about the present or future. Next question says, which sentences refer to the past? Excellent. So clearly the two last ones, number 2 and 3, refer to a past situation. You should have bought a car with 2 airbags, or you shouldn't have bought a car without airbags. That's excellent. Next question says, which sentences are criticisms or give advice which is too late? Which sentences give criticism or advice which is too late? Is it number 1, 2, or 3? Your answer is excellent. The last two ones, that is number 2 and 3, they express what we call criticism, or they give advice which is too late. So we have gathered some information from this slide and from the previous ones. Now we are going to group these pieces of information and formulate our rule and explanation for the use of should and should have. And here we have the form. We use should plus the base form of the verb, like in the examples, you should always wear a seat belt, or you shouldn't use your mobile phone while driving. Now this is the form. Next we have should plus have plus past participle of the verb, like in the example, the motorist should have driven more carefully. All right, now that we have seen the form of the should and should have, let's move to the meaning or the use of should and should have. Now, we use should for advice or recommendation. If you want to advise someone or give him or her a recommendation, you use should plus the verb, like you should wear a seat belt because I think it is important for you. I'm giving you a piece of advice. Okay, the other meaning of should and should have talks about we use should have to criticize or give advice about something in the past. If you want to criticize or give advice about something in the past, in this case you need to use should have plus past participle. Examples like he should have driven more carefully, but he didn't drive carefully. So the past experience or event was that he did not drive carefully. So we give him advice or criticize him by saying he should have driven more carefully. Or you shouldn't have driven so fast. It was dangerous. You see your friend who drove very fast and you criticize him or you advise him and say you shouldn't have driven so fast. Or you should have locked the door. Maybe your house or your car was stolen because you did not shut the door. So one of your friends tells you, you should have locked the door. In that case, your house or your car would have been safe. Okay, now that you have seen the form and the meaning, let's do some practice on using should and should have. We have give advice using should have or shouldn't have and the words and phrases in brackets. By the way, this exercise is taken from your student's book. So number 1 says, my brother was hurt in a car accident. And between brackets, you have ride his bike on the road. You are asked to give advice using ride his bike on the road corresponding to this situation. So my brother was hurt in a car accident, normally because he did not, or because he rode his bike on the road. So if you want to advise him or criticize him, you say he shouldn't have ridden his bike on the road. And please pay attention here to the past participle of the verb ride. He shouldn't have ridden his bike on the road. Another situation says, the bus fell in a hole in the middle of the street. And the cued words to help you formulate a criticism or advice are pay attention to the road signs. So what should the driver of the bus have done to avoid such a situation? You can say, the bus driver should have paid attention to the road signs, but he did not, and he ended up falling in a hole. Next situation says, I bumped my head when the car hit the wall. And you have words to help you make a sentence. Wear seat belt. So in this case, what will you say using should or shouldn't? You can say, you should have worn the seat belt. You should have worn the seat belt. In that case, you would have avoided bumping your head. Next question or example says, it was difficult for me to stop the car in time because I was driving too fast. So if you want to give advice or criticism, you use, you shouldn't have driven too fast, or you should have driven slowly. Our last example says, Mom burnt the spaghetti because she forgot it on the stove. So if you want to criticize this act, you will say, she shouldn't have forgotten it on the stove. All right. I hope now that it's clear to you how to use should and should have. Remember, after should we use the infinitive form of the verb, and after should have we use the past participle. When you use should plus verb, it means a piece. First, it's talking about the present or future situation, and it gives advice. Whereas when you use should have plus past participle, it means you are talking about a past event, and in this case you are criticizing or giving an advice which is too late. All right? Now let's move to something different. This time we are going to talk about suffixes. Now suffixes, simply they are a suffix consists of one or more letters added to the end of a word, and they change its grammatical status as well as its meaning. We are going to see a few examples. Now here we have girl plus s becomes girls. Here girl is the root, that is the original word, and we add the s suffix, and it becomes a new word which is girls, meaning the plural form of the word girl. Singular becomes plural noun just by adding the suffix s. Large plus r becomes larger, and here the adjective becomes comparative. If you say large, it's an adjective, but if you say larger, it's a comparative form of the adjective. We have rain plus ed becomes rained. So here present tense of the verb becomes past tense, and it's the ed suffix which served this function. Direct plus or becomes director, and here the verb becomes a noun. Direct is a verb. If you add the suffix or, it becomes director, and it becomes a noun. All right? I hope it's clear how suffixes function in words. Now we are going to see more examples and more practice on suffixes. The first one says, first here we have a reminder that most words, the endings of words often tell us whether they are nouns, adjectives, or verbs. That is, just by simply looking at the end of a word, you can decide whether it is a noun or an adjective or a verb or whatever. For example, many words that end in ment, M-E-N-T, are nouns, and many words that end in O-U-S are adjectives. This is a general rule, but it's not true 100%. Now let's see our first example. Look at the endings of these words. Find 9 nouns and 7 adjectives. Remember, nouns normally, generally end with M-E-N-T, whereas adjectives normally end with and generally end with O-U-S. Now here I'm going to give you a list of words, and you look at their endings to find nouns, where we have 9 nouns, and 7 adjectives. Our list is like this: intentional, toothy, watchful, cautious, merriment, equipment, management, physicist, fundamental, falsehood, venomous, regulation, reliability, slighter, perseverance, and foreigner. So where are our 9 nouns and where are our 7 adjectives? All right, can you think? The first one, where are the nouns? You have 9 and adjectives 7. All right, I have helped you with this exercise so that it will be easier for you. Here you have in red, we have the adjectives, and the yellow font is the nouns. So we have intentional, toothy, watchful, cautious as adjectives, plus fundamental, venomous, and slighter as adjectives. Whereas the yellow ones, merriment, equipment, management, physicist, falsehood, regulation, reliability, perseverance, and foreigner as nouns. All right? Just from the ending, we can decide the part of speech of these words. Now, another question says, which ending can belong to a noun or a comparative adjective? If you look at the endings of each word, which suffix can serve as, can work as a noun or for comparative adjective? It is the suffix er, as in slighter and foreigner. Here we have foreigner as a noun, whereas slighter as a comparative adjective. Okay? Now our next exercise asks you to think of other words ending with ment, that is M-E-N-T, or shin, T-I-O-N, or E-R, which are nouns, and other words which are adjectives ending with Y, or F-U-L, or O-U-S. Now examples could be, for example, nouns amazement, parliament, agreement, pavement, examination, exhaustion, station, hesitation, driver, leader, and brother. Whereas the adjectives, you can think of pretty, ugly, funny, lovely, beautiful, wonderful, skillful, careful, adventurous, generous, and famous. All right? I hope now you are familiar with the use of suffixes, but still we have more practice on them. So our next exercise says, choose nouns or adjectives to complete these sentences. The same list of words that we have identified as nouns and adjectives. From this list, we are going to fill the blanks in the coming sentences. Number 1 says, you should be very when you are making a campfire. So, you should be very what? Intentional, toothy, watchful. First, do we need a noun or an adjective? You should be. Of course, we need an adjective. So, which adjective from this list would fit in this blank? Excellent. Good guess. Cautious. You should be very cautious when you are making a campfire. That is, cautious or careful. Next sentence says, his blank mistake was to rely too much on other people. His mistake. So we need a noun which modifies mistake. So we need an adjective again. So which adjective fits in this blank? His fundamental, that is his essential, his basic mistake was to rely too much on other people. Next question says, his father became a immediately after university. In this blank, do we need an adjective or a noun? His father became a, of course we need a noun. So which noun would fit in this blank? Physicist, that is someone who is concerned with physics. Excellent. Number 4, Sami has shown great in trying to overcome his handicap. So he has shown great what? We need a noun. So which noun will be suitable in this blank? Excellent. Perseverance. He has shown great perseverance in trying to overcome his handicap. That is strong determination to do something. Number 5, the fire that broke out last night turned out to be what? Do we need a noun or an adjective? Of course, an adjective. So which adjective is suitable in this blank? Excellent. Intentional. That is, someone made it on purpose. It was intentional. The last, or maybe the one before, her blank remarks upsets a lot of people. So here again, do we need a noun or an adjective? Her, we need an adjective. Excellent. So her venomous remarks upsets a lot of people. Venomous here means something which is full of hate. That is hateful. Venomous remarks upsets a lot of people. We still have number 7. The old man's stories produced a lot of among the listeners. Again, here, do we need an adjective or an adverb or a noun? Of course, we need a noun. A lot of merriment. Excellent. Merriment, or simply happiness, joy. And the last one, number 8, says, no one likes the new attendant's smile. So we need a word which describes smile. So from the list, do we need a noun or an adjective? Something describing a smile. So it is an adjective. So which one can go here? It is a toothy smile. That is a smile which shows a lot of teeth. Excellent. Our next exercise this time is to use the verb, add a suffix to it to formulate another word and fill it in the blank. For example, number 1 says, my grandma was. We need a verb plus a suffix to fill the blank. Now, my grandma was with chest pains a week ago, but now she is fine. Here, the sentence talks about pain, about grandma. So it should be something related to what? Light, widen, glory, hospital, valid, hyphen, or beauty. Of course, it should be related to hospital. And which suffix goes with hospital? I-fi, N-fi, 8, or eyes. So it is to someone who goes to hospital, we say that he is hospitalized. Excellent. Next question. Due to poor fact checking, it's taken us a while to the information. Again, a word plus a suffix to fill the blank. This time it should be validate. Validate, that is to approve, to publicly approve of something. Next question. Those seminars will our perception of the importance of human values in our lives. So again, they will widen. Wide plus en. And the next one, some compound nouns in English are 2 separate words and others are, yes, hyphenated. Okay, next example says, the new government is working hard to the city center. So again, which word will fit this blank? To beautify, that is to make it beautiful. And the next one, the new clinic should the responsibilities of the other local health services. So again here, lighten, that is to make it less heavy or less demanding. And the last one, models for bravery are awarded to the achievements of otherwise unsung heroes. So to glorify, that is to honor, to show respect and honor. So please just have a look here that we have words which can have some suffixes and they change meaning plus part of speech. All right, I hope now it's clear to you how to use suffixes, and you have also seen how to change meanings and parts of speech of words from verbs to nouns, from nouns to adjectives and things like that. Our next item in this lesson is going to be about phrasal verbs. Now, phrasal verbs, that is verbs with particles. Now, we are going to read sentences and match the phrasal verbs 1 and 3 with the definitions. We have many definitions for you to choose which one fits each phrasal verb. Our sentences are 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to see each one in isolation. Now, number 1 says, I got over the flu, but it took nearly 2 weeks. The phrasal verb get over, or got over as here, does it mean ask, pay more attention, pay more than something is worth, or C, D, E, F? What do you think? Get over. Excellent. To recover from an illness. It's clear, flu and illness. So to get over, that is to overcome or to recover from an illness. Number 2, it says, she filled up the shopping trolley with free food. Now here, the phrasal verb filled up, what does it mean? Excellent. Fill to capacity. And the last one says, that old Jeep had a tendency to break down just when I needed it the most. So what does break down mean here? Simply, that is break and damage something. Okay, dear students, this brings us to the end of our lesson, which was about the use of should and should have, and we saw how each of them differ from the others in both meaning and form, and we also talked about phrasal verbs and suffixes. I hope you have enjoyed this lesson. You have learned a lot of things which will be beneficial to you in your studies and your exams. Until I see you in another episode, I wish you good luck and goodbye.